Hello, story lovers. Tonight, we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from, and if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who loves a powerful love story, and tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. The warehouse fire cast an orange glow against the Seattle sky, and Detective Maya Rodriguez knew she was too late. Smoke billowed through broken windows as firefighters battled the flames that were consuming everything inside. She pressed her phone harder against her ear, listening to the panicked voice of her informant. They found him, Maya. Marcus is dead, burned alive in there. Maya's blood turned to ice. Marcus Chen had been her only lead in the Meridian corruption case. The one thread that could unravel the web of police officers taking money from the underground fighting rings. Now that thread was literally going up in smoke. She ended the call and stepped closer to the fire line, her dark eyes scanning the crowd of onlookers. Someone here had done this. Someone who knew Marcus was about to talk. Tragic, isn't it? The voice came from beside her, low and gravelly with a hint of an accent she couldn't place. Maya turned to see a man in his 30s, tall and lean, with sharp cheekbones and ink-black hair that looked deliberately tousled. His clothes were expensive but worn casually, like someone who had money but didn't need to prove it. What struck her most were his eyes pale green, almost translucent in the firelight and completely unreadable. "Did you know him?" Maya asked, instinctively cataloging details. No soot on his clothes, no smell of smoke, clean hands. "We all know someone, don't we, Detective?" He turned those unsettling eyes on her. "The question is, how well we really know them." Maya's hand moved instinctively toward her service weapon. "How do you know I'm a detective? Your posture? The way you're studying everyone here instead of watching the fire? And the badge clipped to your belt." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm observant. What's your name?" "Gabriel." He didn't offer a last name. "You're Detective Rodriguez. The one who's been asking questions about underground fights and dirty cops?" Every alarm in Maya's head started screaming. This man knew too much, was too calm, too perfectly positioned. "Are you confessing to something, Gabriel?" "Hardly. Offering to help." "Help with what?" Gabriel stepped closer, and Maya caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something else. Something metallic. "Finding who killed Marcus Chen, because we both know this wasn't an accident." The way he said Marcus's name made Maya's skin crawl. It's too familiar, too casual for someone who claimed to be a stranger. "Hey, what makes you so sure?" "Because I was supposed to meet him here tonight." Gabriel's voice dropped even lower. "Someone wanted us both dead, Detective? The only difference is I'm harder to kill." Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or join your friend in the flames." Gabriel was watching her face as she read it. Threatening messages already? They work fast. "How did you lucky?" Guess his smile turned predatory. "So, Detective Rodriguez, are you brave enough to find out who's pulling the strings? Or are you going to let them scare you off, like they did the last 3 cops who tried to investigate?" Maya's throat went dry. No one knew about the other 3 officers who'd been quietly transferred or suddenly quit. No one except internal affairs and the people behind the corruption. "Who are you really?" she whispered. Gabriel reached into his jacket, and Maya's hand tightened on her weapon. But instead of a gun, he pulled out a small black card with only a phone number embossed. In silver. "Someone who has as much to lose as you do if the wrong people stay in power." He pressed the card into her palm, his fingers lingering. Just long enough for her to notice they were stained with what looked like blood under his fingernails. "Call me when you decide you're ready to stop playing by rules that were written to protect killers." He started to walk away, then paused. "Oh, and Detective, your apartment on Pine Street has very thin walls. You might want to consider staying somewhere else tonight." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd never told anyone her address, never brought work home. But Gabriel knew exactly where she lived. She watched him disappear into the crowd. Her phone rang. The caller ID showed her captain's number, but when she answered, a distorted voice spoke instead. You have 24 hours to forget about Marcus Chen and everything he told you. If you don't, you'll find out exactly how hot warehouse fires can get. The line went dead, and Maya stared at Gabriel's card in her shaking hand, realizing she was holding either her salvation or her death warrant. Maya spent the night in a motel on the outskirts of the city, her service weapon on the nightstand and Gabriel's card burning a hole in her pocket. By dawn, she'd made her decision. She called the number. I wondered how long it would take. Gabriel's voice was even more unsettling over the phone, stripped of visual distractions. Meet me at Pike Place Market. 1 hour. Come alone, detective. I don't think you understand. You don't give me orders. Then Marcus Chen dies for nothing. And you can explain to his sister why her brother's killer is still walking free. The line went quiet for a long moment. 1 hour. Pike Place Market bustled with morning shoppers, the air thick with the scent of fresh fish and roasted coffee. Maya positioned herself near the flower vendors, where she could see all the entrances. Gabriel appeared exactly on time, moving through the crowd like smoke, somehow both visible and invisible. You're learning, he said, approaching from her blind spot despite her careful positioning. Always choose public places. Always have escape routes. Cut the games. What do you know about Marcus? Gabriel bought 2 cups of coffee from a nearby stand, handing her one. Marcus Chen worked for me. Bookkeeping, mostly. Clean work for dirty money. Maya's stomach dropped. What kind of dirty money? The kind that flows through underground fighting rings? The kind that buys police protection? Gabriel's pale eyes studied her reaction. It's the kind that your captain has been taking for 3 years. That's impossible. Captain Morrison is a decorated officer with a gambling problem and a sick wife whose medical bills are bankrupting him. Gabriel sipped his coffee. Very possible, detective, very human. Maya wanted to deny it, but pieces were falling into place. Morrison's new car, his wife's expensive treatments, his sudden interest in shutting down her investigation. What's your role in all this? I run security for certain business interests. People pay me to protect things. Sometimes those things are people. Sometimes they're secrets. You're a criminal. I'm a contractor. The morality of my clients' businesses isn't my concern. Then why help me? Gabriel was quiet for a moment, watching a street performer juggle. Fire. Because someone killed one of my people. And that makes it personal. Because whoever ordered Marcus's death is playing a game bigger than corrupt cops and fight rings. And because you, Detective Rodriguez, are the only honest cop left in this city. How do you know I'm honest? In bed with a bottle, pretending none of this exists, because you've turned down 3 promotions that would have moved you away from street-level crime? And because when your partner was killed 2 years ago, you spent your own money investigating his death when Internal Affairs closed the case? Maya's blood ran cold. How do you know about Danny? I know a lot of things, including who killed him. The world tilted. Danny Vasquez had been more than her partner. They'd been planning to marry. His death in an apparent gang shooting had shattered her world, but she'd never found proof it was anything more than wrong place, wrong time. You're lying. Gabriel reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. Photos taken the night he died. Your partner stumbled onto something he shouldn't have. A meeting between your captain and a man named Viktor Kozlov. Kozlov runs the fighting rings, but that's just the surface. Underneath, he's trafficking girls from Eastern Europe. Maya's hands shook as she opened the envelope. The photos showed Danny crouched behind a dumpster, photographing 2 men shaking hands. One was definitely Captain Morrison. The other was a bear of a man with Slavic features and cold eyes. Danny was going to expose Morrison, Gabriel continued. So Morrison had him killed? Made it look like gang violence. Rage and grief crashed over Maya in waves. To years of wondering, of blaming herself for not being there when Danny needed backup. 2 years of working under the man who'd ordered his execution. Why didn't you come forward before? 'Cause dead cops create investigations. Living cops with evidence create opportunities. Gabriel's voice was emotionless, clinical. I needed Morrison in place, taking money, getting deeper in debt to Kozlov. I needed leverage. You used Danny's death as leverage? I used his death to map the corruption network. Morrison isn't the only cop on Kozlov's payroll. There are 12 others, including 2 in internal affairs and 1 in the district attorney's office. Maya stared at the photos, her vision blurring with tears. She refused to shed. What do you want from me? Help me bring them all down. But understand, detective, once we start this, there's no going back. Kozlov doesn't just kill cops, he makes them disappear. Their families disappear. Their friends disappear. I refuse. Then Marcus died for nothing. Danny died for nothing. And in 6 months, when Kozlov decides Morrison knows too much, your captain will die for nothing too. Maya closed the envelope and met Gabriel's unsettling gaze. The odd plan tomorrow night. There's a big fight. It's high stakes, bigger money. Kozlov will be there personally to collect his percentage from Morrison. We're going to get you inside. How? Gabriel's smile was sharp as a blade. You're going to let them corrupt you, detective. You're going to become everything you've spent your career fighting against. Before Maya could ask what he meant, her phone buzzed with another text. Last warning. Stop now, or your sister in Portland learns what happens to family members of troublesome cops. Maya's blood turned to ice. She'd never mentioned her sister to anyone at work, never even talked about having family. Gabriel was watching her face. Again, they're escalating. Which means we're close to something that scares them. How did they know about my sister? Same way they knew about Danny's investigation. They have someone inside who's been feeding them information. Gabriel leaned closer. Someone you trust. Maya's phone rang. Captain Morrison's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, Gabriel whispered. Act normal. But listen carefully, too. What he says and how he says it. Maya accepted the call. Morrison Rodriguez, I need you in my office now. We need to discuss your future with this department. The line went dead, and Maya looked at Gabriel with growing horror. He knows. Somehow he knows I was investigating, which means our timeline just got much shorter. Gabriel stood, tossing his empty coffee cup in a trash can. How much do you trust your life to my judgment, detective? Not at all. Good. Trust will get you killed in this business. Fear and necessity are much more reliable. He started walking toward the exit. Meet me tonight at the address I'm about to text you. Come armed, but be prepared to surrender your weapon. And detective? What? If you're not there by midnight, I'll assume you chose Morrison's side, and I'll treat you accordingly. Maya melted back into the crowd. Maya realized she was no longer investigating a case. She was trapped in a war where everyone was lying, everyone was dangerous. And the only person offering to help her was the one person she absolutely couldn't trust. The meeting with Captain Morrison went exactly as Maya had feared. He offered her a promotion to detective sergeant, effective immediately, with a transfer to white-collar crime division. Far from the streets, far from anything that mattered. A good opportunity, Rodriguez. Clean work, regular hours. You could use some stability after everything you've been through. Maya had nodded and smiled and accepted, knowing it was a gilded cage designed to neutralize her. After she left his office, she'd gone home, packed a go-bag, and prepared to burn her entire life to the ground. The address, Gabriel texted, led her to an abandoned auto shop in Georgetown. She arrived 15 minutes early, circled the building twice, and identified 3 possible escape routes. Old habits from patrol training that might keep her alive. Gabriel was waiting inside, but he wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, both armed and dangerous looking. The space was lit by harsh, industrial lamps that cast hard shadows across their faces. You came, Gabriel said, sounding genuinely surprised. You killed my partner. That trumps my self-preservation instincts. I didn't kill Danny, but I understand the distinction is academic to you. Gabriel gestured to his companions. This is Anton and Dmitri. They work for Kozlov. Maya's hand moved toward her weapon, but Gabriel held up a warning finger. Here because we need them to believe you've been turned. By tomorrow morning, Kozlov will know that Detective Maya Rodriguez is willing to play ball. He'll also know that you're desperate enough to be useful. What makes you think they'll believe it? Anton, the larger of the two men, spoke in heavily accented English. Because you are here, because you are scared, and because you have debts. Don't have any debts. Dmitri pulled out a tablet and showed her the screen. Financial records, credit reports, bank statements. Medical bills for sister in Portland. Cancer treatment. It's very expensive. Insurance covers maybe 60%. Elena's lymphoma had been in remission for 6 months, but the treatment costs had nearly bankrupted both of them. Maya had taken a second mortgage on her apartment and maxed out 3 credit cards to cover the bills. How did we know everything, Detective? Gabriel said quietly. Your sister's medical records, your financial situation, your service record, even your psychological evaluation after Danny's death. That information is confidential. Information is only as confidential as the people with access to it. And as we've established, Kozlov has people everywhere. Anton leaned forward. Boss wants to meet you tomorrow night. Big fight, like Gabriel said. You come, you watch, you take small envelope home. $5,000. Sister's next treatment. Payment. And all I have to do is look the other way? All you have to do is survive, Gabriel said. Because once Kozlov meets you, once he has leverage over you, he'll start asking for bigger favors. And if you ever refuse, or if he ever suspects you're working against him, you'll end up like Marcus Chen. Dmitri stood and moved toward the door. Tomorrow night, Pier 47, Warehouse 3, 10 o'clock. Come alone. No wire, no backup, no hero bullshit.
Actor.
The two men left. Maya found herself alone with Gabriel in the echoing space. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken questions. This is insane, she said finally. I'm a cop. I can't take money from criminals. You're not a cop anymore, Maya. You're undercover in your own life. Just trying to stay alive long enough to get justice for Danny. And after tomorrow night? What happens when Kozlov wants me to destroy evidence or intimidate witnesses, or Yule? Do whatever it takes to maintain your cover until we have enough evidence to bring down the entire network. Gabriel's pale eyes were uncompromising. You'll become complicit in things that will haunt you for the rest of your life. And if you're very lucky, you'll live long enough to feel guilty about them. Maya walked to one of the grimy windows and stared out at the Seattle skyline, lights twinkling like false stars. Why should I trust you? For all I know, this is all an elaborate setup. Maybe you're working for Kozlov. Maybe this is how he recruits cops. Maybe it is. Gabriel moved to stand behind her, close enough that she could feel the heat from his body. But you're here anyway. Which tells me you've already made your choice. I haven't chosen anything. You chose the moment you answered my call instead of running. You chose when you came here instead of accepting Morrison's promotion. You chose when you decided Danny's death mattered more than your safety. Maya turned to face him, suddenly aware of how close he was standing. In the harsh industrial lighting, Gabriel's features looked carved from stone, all sharp angles and shadows. But his eyes held something she hadn't expected to see. Respect. What's your real name? She asked. Gabriel is my real name? Everything else about me is classified or dangerous to know. What's your connection to all this? Why do you care about bringing down Kozlov? Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, considering how much to reveal. 5 years ago, Kozlov killed someone important to me, someone innocent who got caught in his web of human trafficking and violence. I've been building a case against him ever since getting close to his organization, earning his trust. So you're undercover too, something like that? Who do you work for? FBI. Gabriel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I work for myself, Detective. Justice doesn't always come through official channels. Sometimes it comes through people. Like me? People like you? People who operate in the spaces between legal and illegal.
S.
People who understand that sometimes you have to become a monster to hunt monsters. Maya studied his face, looking for tells, for signs of deception. What she saw instead was a kind of controlled fury, a cold rage that had been burning for years. Who did he kill? Someone who trusted me to keep her safe. Someone I failed. The pain in his voice was brief but unmistakable. Maya recognized it because she'd heard it in her own voice when she talked about Danny. "Tomorrow night," she said, "when I'm in that warehouse with Kozlov and his people, how do I know you'll be watching? How do I know this isn't the night? Disappear forever?" Gabriel reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device, about the size of a thumb drive. GPS tracker with panic button. If things go wrong, press it. I'll come for you. And if you don't make it in time, then shoot your way out and run. Don't stop. Don't look back. Don't trust anyone in law enforcement. Disappear completely and start over somewhere Kozlov can't find you. Maya took the device, its weight heavier than its size suggested. This is really happening, isn't it? I'm really going to walk into a room full of criminals and pretend to be one of them. Yes. And Maya? Gabriel moved toward the door. When you're in there tomorrow night, when Kozlov is testing you and pushing you and trying to figure out how far he can bend you before you break, remember that every word you say, every compromise you make, brings us closer to justice for Danny, and for everyone else these people have destroyed. As Gabriel disappeared into the Seattle night, that woman had been a cop who believed in the system, who thought justice came through proper channels and legal procedures. The woman standing in the abandoned auto shop was someone harder, someone willing to walk into hell for the chance at revenge. Someone who understood that in a world where monsters wore badges and evil hid behind legitimate businesses, sometimes the only way to fight darkness was to become it. The warehouse at Pier 47 throbbed with violent energy. Maya had never experienced anything like it. The primal roar of the crowd, the metallic scent of blood mixing with sweat and fear, the way money changed hands in the shadows like a disease. Spreading through the darkness, Viktor Kozlov was exactly what she'd expected. Massive. Brutal, with the kind of presence that made dangerous men step aside. He sat in a raised booth overlooking the fighting pit, surrounded by lieutenants who treated him like a medieval king. Captain Morrison stood to his right, looking smaller and more pathetic than Maya had ever seen him. Detective Rodriguez Kozlov's voice carried a thick Russian accent and the kind of authority that came from years of being obeyed without question. "Gabriel tells me you are ready to be a reasonable person." Maya had rehearsed this moment 100 times, but nothing had prepared her for the weight of Kozlov's stare. "I'm ready to be practical, Mr. Kozlov. My sister needs medical treatment I can't afford on a cop's salary." Kozlov smiled, showing gold teeth. "Honesty. I appreciate this. Your captain, he came to me with stories about gambling debts and desperate circumstances. But you come with family loyalty. Much more reliable motivation." Below them, two fighters were beating each other into unconsciousness while the crowd screamed for blood.
"What
do you need from me? Tonight, nothing. Tonight you watch, you learn, you understand how my business operates." Kozlov gestured toward the fighting pit. "These men, they fight because they choose to. Good money, fair rules, medical care if they need it. Very civilized." Maya nodded, though every instinct screamed that nothing about this was civilized. "Sometimes, detective, police make my business difficult. They ask questions about things that do not concern them. They investigate things that should remain private. This is where friends and law enforcement become valuable." Morrison cleared his throat. "Detective Rodriguez has an excellent record. She's thorough, discreet, and she understands the value of selective attention to detail." "Selective attention," Kozlov repeated, seeming to taste the phrase. "Yes, this is useful skill. Detective, you will return to your work tomorrow. You will continue to be excellent police officer. But if certain investigations come across your desk, certain cases that involve my interests or my associates, you will remember that your sister's health depends on your discretion." A thick envelope appeared on the table in front of Maya. She stared at it, knowing that touching it would cross a line she could never uncross. $5,000, Kozlov said quietly. "Enough for your sister's next treatment cycle? Consider it a signing bonus." Maya reached for the envelope, her hand trembling slightly. As her fingers closed around it, she felt something inside. Her some part of herself that had believed in absolute right and wrong, in the possibility of being good in an evil world. "Welcome to family, Detective Rodriguez." The fight below ended with one man unconscious and bleeding, while the winner raised his fists in triumph. Maya applauded with the rest of the crowd, the envelope burning like acid in her jacket pocket. For the next 2 hours, she played her part perfectly. She watched fights, made small talk with criminals, and accepted congratulations on joining Kozlov's network. She memorized faces, noted security arrangements, and identified escape routes. She became exactly what Gabriel needed her to be, a corrupt cop with access to inside information. But it was the conversation she overheard near the end of the evening that changed everything. Maya was returning from the restroom when she heard familiar voices coming from a storage room with a partially open door. She recognized Morrison's voice immediately, but the other voice made her blood freeze. Gabriel. The detective bought it completely. Gabriel was saying, "She thinks she's working undercover to bring you down, but she's actually giving us everything. We need to identify the federal task force investigating your operation." "You are certain she suspects nothing?" Kozlov's voice was skeptical. "She's motivated by revenge for her dead partner and guilt over her sister's medical bills. Classic psychological profile for recruitment. She'll do whatever we ask as long as she thinks it serves her greater purpose." Maya pressed herself against the wall, her mind reeling. Gabriel wasn't working to bring down Kozlov. He was working for him, and the federal investigation, Sfru Rodriguez, will know exactly what they know and when they plan to move. Her access to the police database gives us real-time intelligence on any law enforcement activity related to your businesses. Morrison's voice was shaky. Are you sure this will work? If the feds discover what we're doing, the feds will discover exactly what we want them to discover, Gabriel said coldly. Rodriguez will feed them information that leads them away from your core operations and toward your competitors. By the time they realize they've been manipulated, you'll have eliminated the Yakuza presence in the shipping district and consolidated control over the entire waterfront. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as the pieces fell into place. Gabriel hadn't recruited her to bring down corruption. He'd recruited her to be an unwitting double agent, feeding false information too. Federal investigators while helping Kozlov eliminate his competition, everything he'd told her was a lie. Danny's death, Marcus Chen's murder. Even the photographs, all of it carefully constructed to manipulate her into betraying everything she'd sworn to protect. "What about when the operation is complete?" Morrison asked. "What happens to Rodriguez?" Then, Gabriel's response was matter-of-fact, clinical. The same thing that happened to her partner, a tragic death in the line of duty. Another casualty of the dangerous work she chose to do. Maya bit down on her knuckle to keep from crying out. Gabriel had killed Danny, not on Morrison's orders, but as part of his own long-term plan to position himself as an indispensable asset to Kozlov. She backed away from the door on trembling legs, her mind racing through implications and options. The GPS tracker Gabriel had given her wasn't a safety device, it was a leash. He could track her every movement, know exactly where she was at all times. Maya made it to the warehouse exit before her knees buckled. She leaned against the building's exterior wall, breathing heavily as rain began to fall from the Seattle sky. The envelope of money felt like poison in her jacket. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gabriel. "How did your first night go?" "Call me when you get home." Maya stared at the message. Understanding that Gabriel was testing her, watching for any sign that she'd discovered his true agenda, had to respond normally, had to maintain her cover while figuring out how to escape. The trap she'd walked into. She typed back. "Kozlov seems pleased. We should meet tomorrow to discuss next steps." The response came immediately. "Excellent. I knew you were the right person for this job." As Maya walked through the rain toward her car, she realized she was completely alone. She couldn't trust the police. Morrison was corrupt, and Gabriel had people throughout the department. She couldn't trust federal law enforcement. Gabriel was feeding them false information through her. She couldn't even trust her own judgment anymore. But she still had one advantage Gabriel didn't know about. She'd figured out his game before it was too late. The question now was whether she could survive long enough to turn that knowledge into justice for Danny and all the other people Gabriel and Kozlov had destroyed. Her phone rang. Gabriel's number. "Detective, I wanted to check on you. I know tonight was difficult." Maya forced her voice to remain steady. I did what needed to be done. The money will help Elena's treatment. Good, and Maya, I'm proud of you. Danny would be proud too. You're going to help us get justice for him. Gabriel's lies poured through the phone. Maya made a promise to Danny's memory and to herself. Before this was over, she would find a way to make Gabriel pay for every life he'd destroyed, every truth he'd perverted, every moment of grief he'd weaponized for his own purposes, even if it killed her. Maya spent 3 weeks playing Gabriel's game, feeding him false information about federal investigations that didn't exist while secretly documenting everything she learned about Kozlov's operation. She used her police database access to create fictional task force reports, carefully crafted to send Gabriel and Kozlov chasing shadows while she built a real case against them. The hardest part was pretending to trust the man who had killed Danny. Every meeting with Gabriel was agony, listening to him lie about seeking justice while planning her death. But Maya had learned something important in those warehouse weeks. She was stronger than her grief, smarter than her rage, and more dangerous than anyone suspected. On a gray Thursday morning, Maya finally put her plan into motion. They have a problem, she told Gabriel during their regular check-in call. Internal Affairs is opening an investigation into my finances. Someone reported the sudden influx of cash. Gabriel's voice sharpened with interest. Who reported it? I don't know yet, but they're scheduling interviews with everyone in my precinct. If they dig too deep, they'll connect me to Kozlov. This is problematic. We may need to accelerate our timeline. What does that mean? It means tonight might be your last night as a police officer. Kozlov wants to move against the federal task force tomorrow. After that, you'll need to disappear for a while. Maya closed her eyes, knowing this was the moment Gabriel would reveal his true plan. Disappear how? There's a safe house in Vancouver. New identity. Enough money to start over. Your sister's medical care will be handled indefinitely. In exchange, provide us with the complete federal case files and the identities of all undercover agents. Everything you've accessed over the past 3 weeks. Maya pretended to consider this. What guarantee do I have that you'll keep your promises? Gabriel's laugh was cold. Detective, you're far past the point where guarantees matter. You've taken money from criminals and provided them with classified information. Your choices now are cooperation or elimination. Okay? The mask was finally coming off. Maya felt a savage satisfaction at hearing Gabriel's true voice. I need time to think about this. You have until tonight. Meet me at the usual place at 11. And Maya, don't make the mistake of thinking you can run. We know where you live, where you work, where your sister is receiving treatment. There's nowhere you can go that we can't find you. After Gabriel hung up, Maya made 3 phone calls. The first was to FBI agent Sarah Chen, whom she'd contacted secretly 2 weeks earlier. The second was to her sister Elena in Portland, warning her to check into a hotel under a false name. The third was to Danny's old partner, Detective Luis Santos, the only cop in the department she was certain wasn't corrupt. By 11 o'clock that night, Maya was standing in the abandoned auto shop where this nightmare had begun, wearing a wire and carrying enough evidence to destroy Gabriel and Kozlov's entire network. But she wasn't naive enough to think arrest was possible. Gabriel was too smart, too careful, too connected. This was going to end in blood. Gabriel arrived exactly on time, but he wasn't alone. Anton and Dmitri flanked him, both armed and alert. Gabriel's pale eyes studied Maya with new intensity, as if he was seeing her clearly for the first time. You look different tonight, Detective. More resolved. I've made my decision. I'm ready to cooperate fully. Gabriel smiled, but his hand moved subtly toward his jacket. That's what I was afraid you'd say, afraid. Maya, did you really think I wouldn't notice the federal surveillance team parked 3 blocks away? Or the sudden interest agent Sarah Chen has shown in the waterfront district? Or the fact that every piece of information you've given me over? The past 2 weeks has been carefully crafted misdirection. Maya's blood turned to ice, but she kept her expression neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. Gabriel pulled out a tablet and showed her the screen. Surveillance photos of her meeting with Agent Chen. Audio recordings of her conversations with Luis Santos. financial records, showing she'd never actually spent any of Kozlov's money. You've been very thorough, detective, very clever. But you made one crucial mistake, which was you assumed I actually cared about Kozlov's operation. You assumed I was working for him instead of using him. Maya's mind reeled as Gabriel continued. Viktor Kozlov killed my sister 5 years ago. Anya was 17, trafficked from Moscow, forced into prostitution, murdered when she tried to escape. Everything I've done since then has been about getting close enough to him to destroy him completely. You're lying. I'm a federal agent, Maya. Deep cover for 3 years, building a case that will put Kozlov away forever. Get your investigation. Threatened to expose me before I could complete my mission. So you killed Danny. Gabriel's expression didn't change. Danny stumbled onto surveillance photos of me with Kozlov. He was going to blow my cover and get us both killed. I made a choice. You murdered my partner to protect your case. I sacrificed one life to save hundreds. Danny's death allowed me to maintain my position and gather evidence of Kozlov's entire trafficking network. Girls as young as 14, Maya. Dozens of them. Danny's death means they get to live. Maya stared at him, understanding finally that Gabriel wasn't just a killer, he was a fanatic. Someone who decided that justice was worth any price, any betrayal, any amount of innocent blood. And Marcus Chen. Marcus discovered I was feeding Kozlov false information about federal operations. He threatened to expose me to save his own skin. Another necessary sacrifice. How many people have you killed for your greater good? Gabriel's pale eyes were utterly cold. As many as necessary, including you, if you force my hand. Maya laughed, a sound devoid of humor. You're going to kill me anyway. That was always the plan. Use me to identify federal assets, then eliminate me before. I could become a liability. Not necessarily. If you're willing to testify against Kozlov when the time comes, if you're willing to disappear quietly afterward, you might survive this. Testify to what? That you manipulated me into taking dirty money and betraying federal investigations? That you killed my partner and made me complicit in covering it up? Gabriel stepped closer, his hand now openly resting on his weapon. Testify that Viktor Kozlov is a monster who deserves to rot in prison for the rest of his life. Everything else is details. Maya met his gaze without flinching. The recording device I'm wearing has captured everything you've said tonight. Agent Chen and her team have enough evidence to charge you with murder, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Your choice now is surrender or die. Gabriel drew his weapon in one smooth motion, but Maya was faster. 3 years of grief and rage had honed her reflexes to a razor's edge. Her service pistol appeared in her hands like magic, trained on Gabriel's chest before he could fully clear leather. Drop it, she commanded. Anton and Dmitri moved to flank her, but Maya's voice stopped them cold. FBI, this building is surrounded. Drop your weapons now. The lie bought her precious seconds as the two men hesitated. Confused by the contradiction between what Gabriel had told them and what Maya was claiming, in that moment of uncertainty, Maya made her choice. She shot Gabriel's center mass. He staggered, backward, shock replacing the cold calculation in his pale eyes. You don't understand. Without me, Kozlov will. Maya shot him again. Gabriel collapsed, blood spreading across his expensive shirt. Anton and Dmitri raised their weapons, but the sharp crack of sniper rifles from outside the building dropped them both before they could fire. Agent Chen's voice echoed through a megaphone. This is the FBI. The building is surrounded. Come out with your hands visible. Maya knelt beside Gabriel, watching the life drain from his eyes. Danny says hello from hell. Gabriel tried to speak, but only blood came out. He died staring at the ceiling, his grand mission unfinished. His careful plans reduced to nothing by the grief of one stubborn cop who refused to be anyone's pawn. 3 months later, Maya testified at Viktor Kozlov's trial. The evidence Gabriel had gathered over 3 years of undercover work was indeed comprehensive enough to convict Kozlov of trafficking, murder, and racketeering. He received life in prison without possibility of parole. Captain Morrison pleaded guilty to corruption charges and received 15 years. 12 other officers were arrested as part of the broader investigation. Maya resigned from the Seattle Police Department. The day after Kozlov's conviction, Agent Chen offered her a position with the FBI, but Maya declined. She'd had enough of institutions and their compromises. Instead, she used the reward money from the federal case to pay for Elena's complete medical treatment. Her sister had been cancer-free for 6 months and was planning to start graduate school. On a clear December morning, Maya stood at Danny's grave, finally ready to say goodbye. "I got them," she whispered to the headstone. "All of them. It doesn't bring you back, but maybe you can rest now." She placed a single white rose on his grave and walked away, disappearing into the Seattle crowd like smoke, carrying her scars and her secrets into whatever came next. Behind her, the wind scattered the petals across Danny's grave. And for the first time in 3 years, Maya Rodriguez smiled. The end.